and surprised to have him with us, is Mr. Remedios Kintu of the Ugandan Catholic community. And that says quite a bit right there. So I would like Mr. Kintu to please come up and to share his remarks with us. Let's welcome Mr. Kintu.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ugandan Catholic community in the Washington metropolitan area, we want to thank you very sincerely for your devotion, support you have shown in coming to this fundraising dinner, out of which there is going to be a small contribution towards the shipment of a container Dr. Kerry and his friends of the Knights of Columbus are working on to ship to a parish in eastern Uganda, a town called Jinja. I happen to be familiar with that place because I've lived there for some time and I've seen what is going on in that country and that particular town in particular. They need all the help they can get. It's very, very heartwarming when I heard Dr. Kerry almost a year ago tell me that he is vigorously involved in this particular project, and I promised him that we shall do our best to support his efforts. We are so happy and grateful that you two have joined in this particular endeavor, and we hope you will help him not only in paying for the dinner, but also putting your hands in your pockets a little bit deeper so that we can get this project off the ground. The Catholic community in Uganda is growing large and wide. As you know, that is the land of the Ugandan martyrs who were persecuted for their faith a little over 100 years ago. The church is growing big. The Catholics are very vigorously involved in not only building their church, but also building the nation. We have tough times, as you may have read in the Washington Post and other papers, but that's part of growing. We hope that one of these days, some of you people will join Dr. Kerry and others, visit Uganda and see where your help has gone. I think that is important. You should visit that country. You should see what is going on, regardless of what is being said, so that you can assess for yourself and also be a little bit more contributive and finally enjoy the universality of our Catholic faith. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Someone who's helped to gather the volunteers to work in this event, I can truly say that we do have a representation from many countries. Our speaker himself comes from a Ukrainian background. Dr. Fedoryka has studied philosophy at the University of Salzburg. He taught at the University of Rhode Island and also the University of Dallas. He's been active in pro-life movement since he returned to the States after his graduate work. He's the father of 10 children, all of whom are studying at home in homeschool. And I understand, like the Trapp family, sing, but unlike the Trapp family, also play instruments. So they're a musical family. And he has been president of Christendom College for the last 5 years. Without further ado, then, I would like to present to you Dr. Damian Fedoryka, and speaking to us about the right to life and the sovereignty of God.
Thank you. Mrs. Principal, Mrs. Stossert, worthy Grand Knight, ladies and gentlemen of the Home School Association and of the Knights of Columbus. It's a real pleasure to be here this evening with you. I see it's grown much more quiet than it was before. I think some of the parents have sent their children to be watched over. It really wouldn't have made any difference. I've got 7 girls at home and nobody ever listens to what I say anyway. So it wouldn't have made a difference. I have my 3 young men here with me. They do want to listen to Daddy and they have to go out of the house to do that. So they've come to support me. Tonight I'd like to address you on the theme of the right to life and the sovereignty of God. And I would like to do that from a perspective perhaps you're not very familiar with. However, I think it's a perspective that is extremely important, especially today when we have so much quote-unquote dialogue about abortion, when we have such tremendous tensions and divisions in our country. In the name of resolving these tensions and divisions, we are urged to be more polite, more civil, more circumspect in what we say, less insistent on imposing our opinions on others. How many of you have heard this objection? Don't oppose your opinion on me or on others. Have you heard that? Don't impose your religion on others. After all, we're a democratic and a pluralistic nation. I'm sure you've heard of that. Have you heard this phrase, don't be judgmental of others? You do not know the situation in which the woman finds herself, especially if you're a man. And I'm sure we've all heard these phrases, we've all heard these expressions and objections, and I'm also sure that we all had difficulty dealing with them. At least I did. It was a number of years ago that a thought struck me, and this was after I was reading some of the things that the church was saying. In 1973, right after the Supreme Court decision in favor of abortion, there were a number of Catholic spokesmen who spoke against it. And one of the phrases that you heard at that time was, of course we legislate morality. Traffic laws are a legislation of morality. How dare you say that we should not legislate morality by prohibiting abortion? And it struck me, all of a sudden at that moment, that this argument was completely wrong. We are not legislating morality when we legislate traffic signals, or are we? Stop and reflect on this with me for a second. You have Joe Smith driving in his new 1990 car, we don't know what brand. He's approaching across an intersection with red lights, and going with the green light across his street is a file of small children. Now, our driver had a very bad childhood, so much so that he resents all other children. He hates children, does he not? The psychologists have told us he's got a record, previous arrests, and so on. We have a case history on him. He's approaching the intersection and he hates children. What does the law say? The law does not say, thou shalt be filled with moral sentiments of love, admiration, and reverence for the children. No, the law says what? Stop. The law, in effect, says, I don't care about your opinions. I don't care about your motivations. I don't care about the problems of your cultural and spiritual environment. I don't care what your parents did to you or other children did to you. These children shall be protected. Their right to exist is hereby protected by this law which we are promulgating for the whole land.